What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's happening with the options chain for SPY and how this is affecting the markets, what data is coming out for tomorrow, and what the news is saying about Tesla, and some very, very important levels of resistance on Tesla, which are going to be dictating where this thing moves going forward. But before I bring anything down about all this information, before I talk about what's going on with Tesla's stock, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. So anyways, let's talk about Tesla. Let's talk about how the market's looking. If you look at Tesla's thing is trying to uptrend right now, but we have this tight resistance at 238. 238 is where this thing is getting stopped for now, and we need to break this in order for us to get an even more like bullish breakout. But one thing I want to note is that if we do break out of this 238 zone, I think that this imbalance is going to fill and we're going to be seeing a nice move to the upside into the 242 plus area. I think that Tesla has potential to do so. However, as of right now, the market's very boring, very choppy, not really doing a whole lot, and this is making it a little bit more difficult for Tesla to get a bigger breakout. On top of that, there isn't really any like major piece of news that came out. We have some excitement associated with the Cybertruck event, but it's not really panning out just yet. So we're going to be waiting to see how this perpetuates going into like the end of the week. So the Cybertruck event, by the way, is going to be on Thursday, the last day of November at 1 p.m. Central Time. Don't forget about that. And I just wanted to remind you about that. Now let's talk about the news and what's happening with the markets for now. So some data came out in the morning. And the building permits data coming out, this was very close to what the forecast was. New home sales was once again close to the forecast, nothing too insane. And the new home sales was a little bit lower than expected month over month, however. So this is actually like a different time frame. This was a little bit lower, and besides that, everything else was quite decent. So I would say that the data was very mixed. For the most part, it was quite decent. The market just continued to chop around for the most part. We got a small pump over the last few hours. Now the market's coming back down, and we're just continuing to trade very flat. For tomorrow, we have consumer confidence coming out at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's going to be quite important, could cause somewhat of a move for the markets. Then we have more Fed speakers as the day goes on. But don't forget that Wednesday through Friday are when things become more serious. There's just one like minor piece of data for tomorrow. On top of this, we're seeing some news saying that the Dow is falling just a bit. The 4-week rally is coming to a pause. I wouldn't necessarily call it yet until we see the close and see the technicals. But for now, the market is flat, so I do agree with that. Not really doing anything too significant. So now I just want to break down what's happening with the options chain. SPY is kind of like boring right now. If you actually look at SPY, we're currently at 455.09, trading very flat, going back and back and forth between supply and demand. Nothing really significant happened to SPY. And part of the reason why this is happening is because of how the market makers are seeing things. The market makers noticed that we have about 200 plus thousand puts expiring, and they're not going to let the market sink very hard for that. We don't really have any crazy amounts of options again until like Friday, so that gives some room for more volatility possibly. I just wanted to add that if you look at the strikes on SPY, on the call side, there is high open interest for 455 and then 456 big increases, but we have high volume at 455. So that is technically the area of interest for the call holders. That's why the market is kind of shopping around that like 455 area. It also benefits the market makers because it causes pain for people holding 0 day to expirations because of the theta decay and also how like the other factors affect them. On the put side, I just want to call out that we have some high open interest for 455 and 454, those two strikes. With high volume as well. So those are the area of interests. And that's part of why that's like really close to where our range was for the day. For Tesla, we had some news that came out. Whoops, let's just close that. Tesla's offering 6 months of free supercharging for the new Model 3 and Model Y purchases. Once again, trying to boost sales to end the year to meet up their demands and their goals. That's good news for them. Now, other people are looking at this as, Tesla's slowing demand is just hurting them and this and that. I don't really think that this is affecting the share price much, but whatever it takes to get those numbers up, I mean, I still support this, and I think that Tesla should do whatever is necessary. I know that for the short term, things could be difficult for Tesla, even for the next year, right? Looking at the high interest rate environment and such, the Fed is not expected to start cutting rates for quite some time. and it's going to affect Tesla. But for the long term, as long as they maintain these numbers, as long as they position themselves in a very good state, I still believe the future will be very bright for them. In my opinion, has not changed. Anyways, let's talk about the market. Let's talk about Tesla. What on earth is going on? Let's start off with Tesla. So Tesla's trying to test 238, showing some life right now. Might try to break this high. We need to break out of the 238 to start looking more bullish. And as of right now, if you look at SPY, it's very flat. The QQQ is kind of flat, not really doing much, but Tesla's showing some strength. I called this out in the morning. Tesla may have some relative strength thanks to the Cybertruck event, and we're trying to fight 238. If Tesla breaks 238, even if we just close above it, that's going to be a good sign because I would anticipate that this imbalance will fill, like I said earlier. I think 242 is possible for Tesla. I think we're going to see a move to the upside, especially if we break this resistance. For support, we're going to be watching 236.25, very close to where we have this channel. And also, our demand zone happens to be down there. If we lose that, watch 235. If that fails us, then there could be a move down to 232. Right now, it's looking more bullish. It's trying to break 238. It's going to fight for this. We'll see if this breaks. If it does do so, which I think eventually it will, we should be anticipating some nice price action. The only issue for Tesla is, however, that the whole market is not ripping. SPY is not ripping up hard. QQQ is not ripping up. So the market could slow Tesla down. The market does still affect it, and that's why it's going to be a little bit more difficult for us to get up to like 250, 260, and higher levels like that. But that doesn't make it impossible. So I just wanted to note that we have like an anchor that's making it more difficult for Tesla. But if anything, it still looks bullish from a technical standpoint. I still think that it's outperforming the market. I still think Tesla has potential to try to push a little bit higher. Just have to watch this resistance as it's looking quite decent. Compared to SPY, however, SPY was very boring. So we were just chopping back and forth and back and forth in the morning. We started to uptrend for about an hour to 455.5. Then we got rejected and we're back at 455. We basically traded around or near 455 for the entire day. Very, very boring. Not much is going on. I think it's just going to remain like this as time goes on. But don't forget that SPY still has some signals. If you look at our bearish divergences and such, that suggests that there may be some downside coming in the future. Now, has it happened yet? Not necessarily. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. Not necessarily. We haven't really broken down strongly just yet. We're still kind of shopping around. So we're going to be watching these key levels. So we had this rising wedge, right? And we're starting to actually break a little bit past it. But instead of like getting a big sharp move to the downside, which is what typically happens, SPY for now is a little choppy. So it could just be a delayed move. The downside could just be delayed. And we're starting to respect a slight downtrend. We have this like channel that's forming a flag. So the question now remains, and this is what I'm going to be watching for, which way do we break? Are we going to get one more push to the upside? Are we going to just kind of like chop like this? Right? We've been going back and forth and back and forth. Are we going to do something like this where we get a fake drop and we get one more like push up to form our final top to complete another like quadruple bearish divergence, and then we just reject later on? Is that what's about to happen? Or are we going to just collapse from here? We just attempt to rebound. We see SPY just, maintain this channel and ends up just failing into the end of November, just starts sinking. If it does turn bearish, you want to see this thing lose, 452. If that ends up breaking, we close below that. We're going to turn more bearish and we're going to see more downside. As of right now, it hasn't happened, and we're still in this channel. So don't worry about which way we break yet. Just watch the channel and see how SPY does. Do we get a break or not? Just watch it, and we're kind of stuck for now, going back and forth, very choppy. So it's not really fun to trade. Just it's more, it's kind of boring if anything. So just watch it carefully and see what the range looks like. Maybe check it every so often because there's not really a whole lot going on. I don't really expect too much to be happening. You could argue that SPY has like a head and shoulders forming on the 5-minute time frame, possibly, but we need to see this 200 EMA break. As of right now, we'll just have to wait and see. It's choppy for the most part, and we'll see where we close. If we do end up breaking down below 455, watch 454 as support, and then we also have the 4-hour 20 EMA as a key support. This is going to be at 454 flat, so that's where it is right now. If we lose 454, I would turn a little bit more bearish. As of right now, it hasn't happened, so we just have to wait and see. So that's the level specifically that's going to be very important for today. Do we get below that, or do we end up just holding where we currently are? On top of this, on the QQQ, we have, we started off with a little push thanks to Nvidia. I think Nvidia played a big role in that, so did Apple, but Nvidia was like more important. And then this thing is starting to turn a little weaker, and we're going to be watching to see if this thing closes above 390 or not. That's going to be our very, very key level. However, I just want to call out, if you look at the QQQ, we have a head and shoulders forming. At least it may play out. We just have to wait and see. But I wanted to call out that we have like a left shoulder here, right? We have a left shoulder here. We have like the head that is formed. Maybe a right shoulder could be forming. If we continue to reject, you want to see if this thing could hold 389. If we lose this by tomorrow, I'm going to be expecting 388. If that fails us, the next level is going to be this zone right here. We have 386.5 coming next. We have to hold that. If it fails there, this thing is going to start tanking to 383 and below that. So we have a potential bearish pattern forming on the QQQ. We'll see if this plays out. I'm not entirely convinced yet because there's so much trickery in the markets. But just to be safe, know that there's a risk of downside, especially if you close below 390. So be careful and watch your levels, and just know that the QQQ rejected off 391, and we have a possible head and shoulders. On Apple, I want to call out something. Apple is also looking very interesting. So Apple basically had this downtrend that was being established by this trend line. We were respecting this for about 3 days, and then Apple ended up breaking out of it. We tried to fill this imbalance, hitting 191, almost became short. Now we're coming back down to 190, so it's showing some weakness technically. And what does this look like, right? So if you go back, you look at our structure, right? We made a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, right here, then the higher high. And then what happened was we rejected, made a lower high. This could be, I'm sorry, we made a lower low, guys. Sorry about that, a lower low. And then this could be our lower high, which tells us that Apple's looking a little weaker overall. You guys can see this, looking a little bit weaker. We tried to break out, we failed, and it's coming back down below 190. This could slow the market down. We need to see this thing lose 189, though, to turn a bit more bearish. We want to see it lose 188, and that's when it's going to start sinking. As of right now, it hasn't done that. It's still kind of like in a chop mode, but there's a risk of downside looking at the current trend. Last but not least, the last one I'm going to talk about for the video is Nvidia. Nvidia, overall, it's showing life, okay? It's showing life, but you want to be careful because what do you see on Nvidia? Just like Apple, right? This thing was making a higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, once again in that pattern. And now, if you look at it, we made this lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. And are we about to break down again? So if you want to be bullish on Nvidia, you want to see it break and hold above 490 and start to establish that, hey, it's not actually downtrending now, it's trying to make its way back up. That's going to be a signal that Nvidia is going to bounce. If Nvidia continues to break down and it fails to break that high, then there's going to be a chance of it coming down. Could still reject here. But now I'm wondering, are we about to form like an inverse head and shoulders here? Could this be like our left shoulder, the head and the right shoulder is about to form? That's a possibility. But if we lose the low we made at 474, I expect this thing to come down towards 468 to 470. So we're going to be watching these levels. If anything, I think it's very flat right here, kind of chopping between 482 and 485. I think that Nvidia is going to be range bound for some time. It's looking like it's going to reject off 485 though, so there could be a little downside coming. We'll have to see tomorrow if this thing manages to like break 490 or not. But for now, the structure is still bearish on Nvidia until we see confirmation of it breaking 490. And we're going to be watching to see how this goes. So watch for a rejection here. It looks like it's going to reject a bit. This could slow things down a little bit. Watch support at 482, then we have 479, then we have 474 below that. Watch these levels. Nvidia is starting to reject a bit, but it might just kind of like chop for the rest of the day, not really doing anything too crazy. All right, so for now, nothing has really proven that the market's going to like, hold up super, super nicely for now. There's nothing proving that the market's bullish or bearish yet. We are for the most part choppy and sideways. Okay, we're very, very sideways, very, very choppy. Nothing is really determined yet, and we're just going to have to wait and see which way we go. Tesla tried to break 238, came just short just now. We'll have to wait and see how Tesla goes. I think there's potential for upside for Tesla, but we have to just wait and see. And the best thing to do is just be very patient, at least for now. All right, so Tesla's kind of like following the market, but there is potential for Tesla to like outperform the market, especially when we get very close to the Cybertruck event. So with that being said, thank you for listening. Sorry if this video was kind of long. I just wanted to give you guys a good update. Thank you again, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks, and peace out.